Cool. Looks like we're live. Let me get it on my phone. Damn. That poor dude.
Yeah, they rolling hard right now.
Someone ripped apart his muffler.
Yeah.
Probably these damn roads, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Alright, share to a group. That's not one to share to, Jesus. Uncensored, just because it's funny.
You put it over there.
Always.
I'll never share it over there.
810 Trevor's Rant Behavioral Health Special. Since I can't read, special edition. Genesee County politics don't like me. Oh, dude. I got in a lot of trouble in a local politics page, partisan politics page.
You did.
All right. So, we got 6 people. That's enough to start. Hopefully we can get a rerun or two, or people can catch up. Good morning. All right. It's 20 minutes past morning. I'm still saying good morning. Bite me. Or people can catch up. All right. So, first things first. Last week I had a slip of the tongue. Let's get this done and over with, guys. It was a fuck up. It was not meant how it sounded. I wrote a little statement. Let me read it, please. And then we'll get on with the reason why most of y'all are here. Unless this is why you're here, in which case we will go through this properly. Either way. So let me begin by saying, on last Friday on my show, I had a slip of the tongue with a couple of words, and I want to say I was wrong. If I offended you, I'm sorry. That was not my intention. I was using the type of words and language I do with people I'm comfortable with, and it slipped my mind that the people I was around that I was comfortable with, that might be offensive, and then the people that come here and watch me weekly rant and rave and talk about issues of the city, I lost myself. So I do want to say I'm very sorry. And if I caused any grievance, please inbox me, let me know, and I'll give you a personal apology. But let's get on to the topics of today. First and foremost, being our communications director. I don't know why Mickey lost his mind and gave me a title of any sort, but it is appreciated, even with the extra work.
Turn the mic to me. That's what they can't hear. You gotta turn that mic to.
Wow. We usually do prep work, guys. Even with the extra work. We usually do. We didn't today. Wow. So let me know if you guys heard my apology, and if you didn't, I'll go through it again. Once again, I am sorry, and if I had caused any grievance to you personally, please message me. I'll give you a personal apology like you deserve. But back on to what I was a few seconds ago. God damn, this is hard without Wintus here, I tell you. It is so hard without my Wintus, without my bestie, without my Winsis, as it were.
Is she in the comments?
Oh yeah, I should probably bring it up on my phone so I can read. I'm getting them old eyes. Don't tell my kids, they're just gonna make fun of me. Here we are. Alright. So, as communications director, it is my job to express and give information about the platform. One key note to us is there's been a fake page circulating recently. You can tell the difference between it and this actual platform. Number one, that we have the 810 News Media Group logo. Number two, we don't share to our own page. If they ask for money over there, if they do whatever, then I highly encourage you just to ignore it. Um, we accept Cash App. We accept stars. Me and Nikki finally sat down and figured that out. Uh, I ain't gonna shill, but 810 does have bills. Okay, that's enough of me doing that. I pay studio fees to help avoid some of that. So it's Behavioral Health Week.
Mm-hmm.
And look, guys, I've been through some stuff in my life. There was an 11-year period where some days I wake up and I think it was all a mistake. Other days I wake up and I couldn't be more proud of it. It is a trip. And the best way I can describe what this has done to my mental is by telling you what I've gone through. I don't really openly talk about this ever. It took my wife 8 years of being with me, and when my back injury first occurred, the doctors gave me some medications and I finally opened up to her. I've been with you guys less than a year. Well, actually about a year now is when Mickey and Miss Tara reached out to me, so about a year. You guys got to skip years 1 through 7 and get straight to 8. So, being in the Army, in the military period, even the Coast Guard, as much junk as I give them, we still don't acknowledge the Space Force here, so we're not going to bring them up. You live a regimented lifestyle. Wake up every day, 5:30. Get on your PT clothes. Be at work by 5:55. Get yelled at 6 for whatever. You didn't lace your boots or your shoes right. You forgot your beanie. Your battle buddy got lost in the sauce on the way into work. Whatever, you're getting yelled at. It just happens. Go work out for an hour and a half. Eat breakfast. Do the work of the day until noon. Well, yeah, 11:30. Eat lunch. More work of the day. Go home. Always in that order. So you get used to doing things in an order. And then you deploy. My very first experience with deployment was in Manis Airfield, in a small country I doubt anyone here has ever heard of called Kyrgyzstan. At first I thought it was Kyrgyzstan that they named it after Star Trek. I got to sleep in until 8 a.m. We didn't have to run. We didn't have to do any PT. We went to the chow hall, and then we just kind of existed for the rest of the day till we went to sleep. And then we got on a C-5 Hercules and flew to Bagram and did the exact same thing. I got to sleep until 8. Holy hell. We loaded up on supplies, mainly your personal supplies. So in my case, these packs of smokes, a can or 3 of dip, and going to all the knockoff shops and buying as many movies as I can, because I know a year without entertainment will drive me insane. More insane than I honestly would be, or than I honestly had been, just to sign a 6-year contract in the United States Army Infantry. Then things get a little different. We wake up, you throw on your body armor, you throw on your helmet. They tell you to wear knee pads. I never did. They suck. Cut off circulation to your legs. It's tight. I'm climbing up mountains, where I was in Kunar province at Bob Blessing. Okay, so we're just, every day we run 2 missions. Every day we go to a village and we interact with a key leader, usually the village elder. Most of them had the term, or had made the Hajj, so they actually had the title and the honorific Haji. My favorite was Haji Wazir Gul. The dude was a blast. He walks up in perfect English and says, "You don't look like the normal idiots that come here." "Oh, I'm glad we still look like idiots, sir." "Shut up. Where's your lieutenant?" "He's over there, sir." "Now go away." "Okay." The guy was a blast. I know it sounds like he's being disrespectful, but he said it with a smile the entire time. And me, as a 20-year-old kid, seeing this 83-year-old man walk around with a cane, just talking to men with machine guns like that is one of the most hilarious things I will ever remember. So, being 20 years old and carrying a belt-fed machine gun was a trip in and of itself. At night, we would go out into the mountains with our night vision, and we'd look for people, usually groups of 15 to 20, trying to walk into these villages, especially after we had been to intimidate them, or more often than not, to get intelligence off them about what we do. And that ran like that for about 3 weeks. Then, as I mentioned last week, there was Hell Week. Once again, it's completely different from the Navy SEAL program. Hell Week for us was 3 missions a day, because First Platoon had to go off into the Korengal. I don't know if many of you guys remember, Korengal Valley was dubbed the Valley of Death during the Afghan War. Bravo Company, yeah, Baker, they were getting pounded there quite intensely. And they needed a break. There's no way to put it. It isn't weakness. They were suffering combat fatigue. They weren't sleeping. So they got pulled off for a little while and got to rest. We sent our first platoon there to cover them. So my platoon was having to go into first platoon's AO, area of operations, our own area of operations, still do our night operations, and then still react to there's 50 anti-American fighters roaming the mountains in this area. Go up there and look for them. Mind you, up until this point, I hadn't seen combat yet. I'd been mortared, sitting on the fob and having a smoke. Knock off Red Bull. God, I miss Rippets. And you're just sitting there hanging out with your friends, and suddenly a very loud noise. You feel pressure hit you, and the first thing you think is, it's so weird, but tap yourself over. Every time you touch, like this, you pull your hands out, you look at them. No blood, next area. And to be 20 years old and go through that really screws with you. Checking yourself for holes, new holes, at that point it wasn't too bad, every 3 or 4 days. Then, just before I came home on mid-tour leave, things had finally calmed down, and we were going to go to a village, I shit you not, its name was Wallatangi. And that's where Mr. Haji Wazir Gul lived. However, we were called off. Chosen Company had an incident. They were walking up the mountain in the Waterport Valley, and their lieutenant, this is only 4 months in, but actually it's probably 3, he was exhausted, as everyone else was, and he decided, instead of walking on the outside of a ridge, he would walk where 2 ridges converged. So he automatically had the low ground, and the entire platoon of 30-something odd men suffered for it. A friend of mine that I went to basic training with, 2 friends from basic training were there. The first was Dowell. D-O-W. I can't remember his first name for the life of me. When they first took contact, wow, today it's me with the phone. When they first took contact, Dow took a round underneath the plate and it blew open his stomach. And he was there for a few hours in pain. He crawled from his exposed position to cover, and then this bad bastard, continued to fight. He was there for a good hour and a half, taking a knee with parts of his insides hanging out, propping up a 240 Bravo, a 28-pound machine gun, and suppressing the enemy. There are several other minor injuries until a helicopter flown from Bagram could land at their position and medevac him and the few injuries. One squad leader actually broke, Staff Sergeant. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He called himself a heat casualty, which just means he's overheating, heat stroke. He got on the bird as well. And they left. Those 6 or 7. The main thing about my platoon, while we had a relatively quieter AO, is we were QRF, or Quick Reaction Force. Someone started to get screwed up. It was our job to come in and relieve or reinforce. And that was the first time we got spun up. So we were going to go see Haji Wazir Gul. And we were told, stand down. You're on standby. QRF might be spinning up. Get your kit on. Do not take off your boots. And okay, so I'm hanging out in my rack. 15 minutes. 20 minutes. And this kid who couldn't cut it on the line, I think he was maybe 24, 25, just comes charging into our hooch and says, guys, get to the flight line now. Oh shit, what did I get myself into? Okay, I grab my helmet, I grab my iPro. Always have a pair of these on me. But the ones that I had then were ballistic. At 15 yards, they could take a 12-gauge bird shot and not shatter. We got down to the flight line. We were briefed of what was happening. We were briefed as to how screwed up Charlie Company was. And we were told they didn't have resupply. So the first thing I did, being a saw gunner, I had a backpack. So my 249 carried 200 rounds on it. I carried an additional 400 on me. And then I had the remaining 400 on my back. 1,000 rounds of ammunition. That's enough for a single saw gunner to be in maybe a 5-6 hour firefight.
Shit.
I went upstairs into the flight tower and loaded up a case of water into my backpack and some more ammunition. I just grabbed random dudes' mags, some fobbits that never leave the fob. You know, your fuel specialist, your helicopter eye looker-atters, whatever. And I just stole their mags. You're not ever going to use them. Fuck you. And threw them in my backpack. And finally the bird comes. The first one had a mechanical failure. They're supposed to fly in tandem, but the need was urgent enough that got waved off. We have an Apache escort, 2 birds, one flying low, one flying high, while the Black Hawk lands.
Oh, hold up. You was where?
Afghanistan.
Shit.
Now, mind you, I'm not a Ranger. I'm not airborne. Wasn't Special Forces. I'm just, at that point, some 20-year-old kid with a machine gun. As we're moving to the flight line, I realize my mistake. I am overladen. I've got my plate carrier on, which is significantly lighter weight than what I was trained in, but it's still 30 pounds. I've got a helmet that's 10. I've got a 14-pound or 16-pound machine gun with an extra 10 pounds of weight, and then I've got probably about 50 on my back. Plus, the ammo that I keep on my vest and my water for my personal use. I was probably running close to 70, 80 extra pounds.
Hey.
I could barely stand up. I get to the bird.
What is the bird? Just
Black Hawk, UH-60.
Okay, that's the helicopter.
Yeah, that's
People
a troop transport.
Right.
That's the one with the twin sliding open doors, single prop on top, and then the vertical tail rudder.
And I was just trying to, for people, because they might don't know when you say in that language like bird. Only reason I know, I watched Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, the Super 6 and all them.
Yeah.
I get in there.
Macadamia Mall they had to go to.
Mogadishu.
The mall. Remember
Mogadishu Mall.
The Mogadishu Mall. Yeah. I watch some old military documentary.
So, I get in the helicopter, and there's this crew chief. He is a PV2, a private 2, second lowest rank in the Army. And he's telling my lieutenant, you can't take all your guys. My lieutenant looks at us and says, okay, machine gunners, that's me. Except for the guys carrying the 240 Bravo. We were issued some newfangled machine gun to replace the 240 Bravo. It never did, but we got to field test it. So one guy had to stay behind. Then he wanted 2 grenadiers, a squad leader, a team leader, himself, the FO. FO is forward observer. So when we call in mortars or artillery, the FO is the one that adjusts them. We're all trained in it. It's just his job. He can do it in many different ways. I cannot. That was Sergeant French, who's now out and enjoying his life in a Jeep. He goes rock crawling now. So we get in, as this private's telling us, how to get in. He's a crew chief. He is in charge of how that helicopter is loaded, and it goes exactly how he says. So, I'm the last one to be put in. I think, okay, I got a door seat. This ain't great. And then I see some guys running over a big-ass black bag. 4 guys, 4 handles. It's about 6 feet long. They're bringing us a body bag. And I look at the guy next to me. I think that was Bentham. I slam him on the leg 3 times, and he looks at me. And I have to cut my hands over my mouth and scream into his ear because, A, Bentham was fucking deaf. And B, helicopters are fucking loud. I go, what the hell is that? He goes, speedball. Obviously, no one here knows what a speedball is unless Tony comes in. But it's basically a resupply. A really fast resupply. Ammo, water, maybe food. This time it's just ammo and water. They slide it in between myself and someone else. I think it was Connolly and Eggers in front of me. And they're walking around the bird one more time, making sure everything's fine. And a rocket hits right behind us. The crew chief says, fuck it. Jumps on, tells the pilot, take off. And there we go. And the entire time, I'm thinking, they didn't close this door. They didn't close this door. Turns out, they weren't ever going to close the fucking door. That wasn't part of the plan. And I may understand physics, centrifugal force. You're sitting down and the helicopter goes like this, you'll fall. If the helicopter's moving forward and turning, you're going to have your ass planted in your seat. However, being a terrified 20-year-old kid who just had a rocket blow up 30 feet away from him while he's in a very explosive, very expensive machine made of metal that will also blow up, my brain wasn't working quite right at the moment. And I'm sitting there going, oh God, I'm going to fall out. Oh God, why? Oh God. I'm more afraid of heights than anything else. And as we're traveling along the valley, I know the general gist of what we're getting into. And I see some figures move down a mountainside. And then I see some bright little yellow sparks, like those, it's like 4th of July, those little things that you fling across the ground and it goes pop. The same sort of color and stuff. And it just registers, okay, we're being shot at. They're AKs. I'm going to be honest with you guys, anti-American fighters weren't all that great shots in Afghanistan, unless it's the damn Chechen snipers. But, I had no actual fear of those guys. They weren't going to hit a moving target, especially 600 meters away. Especially with old beat-up Russian AKs that they probably took off dead Russians in the 80s. But I see the Apache flying slightly behind us. I see the tri-barreled Gatling cannon underneath its nose twist, and then I hear a bark of anger from a Titan. And I just see that entire area that those men were standing explode into a brown sheet of dust. And that was the last they ever shot at anything. So we get to the combat zone. We do an orbit. It's just a quick little circle round to basically check out the area, see if the pilot actually wants to land. And we see a fucking Humvee of all goddamn things, American Humvee, crawling up this back desert road. And, it's a mountain road. I call out to the crew chief, that ours? He goes, I don't think Afghanis can afford those, so yeah. It's fucking weird. Why is it a Humvee coming up there? We've been driving MRAPs. MRAPs are just, think of it as minivans full of pissed off guys with guns. That's really all it is. It's a long ass truck. So they have this old school Humvee rolling up the mountain. When we go to land, helicopter touches. I see Specialist Mozzarella jump out. I see the kid in front of me, Eggers, jump out. I struggled to get up. I finally do. I get to the door. I look out, and I'm 50 feet in the fucking air. The helicopter, as it had landed, had taken several rounds into the cockpit. And the pilot said, nope, we're going to readjust this, without giving us any warning. So those two got out fine. I'm standing in the door, freaking out. So I fall backwards, and I feel two meaty paws hit each one of my shoulders. One from Bentham, one from Connolly, just to hold my ass in that bird. We finally touched down. Helicopter cockpit is now not facing towards someone trying to fucking kill him. And he kept the engine so throttled and so much power going through those propellers that I couldn't walk. I remember getting out, moving 15 steps, and the rotor wash, the downward wind coming off this helicopter, picking me up and throwing me. I mean, literally throwing me. And I got chucked about 5 feet, not very far. I mean, mind you, I was super heavy at the moment. All 110 pounds of me, plus all my gear, all my ammo, my gun, plus all the extra stuff I brought for the guys. I was probably about 250, 260. I get up and I try it again. I get picked up and thrown again. This time I get up again. This time I'm far enough away that it doesn't throw me, it just pushes me down. I say, okay, nope, this is now my fucking rock. I live here now. And I finally see that Humvee pull up. My lieutenant walks over to it, looks at their lieutenant, or looks at the gunner, and he says, "Where's your 6?" In other words, where's the guy in charge? The guy in the gun says, "I'm the 6." My lieutenant goes, "Okay, what do you need?" The guy in the turret of this Humvee says, "What I need from you right now is a ground guide." In other words, he wanted my lieutenant to tell him how to turn around. And my lieutenant goes, "You're fucking stupid," and walks away. Another guy runs up to my lieutenant and goes, "Hi, I'm Charlie 39, Charlie Company, 3rd Platoon, Forward Observer." He says, "I know you have a lot of questions for me. That way's north. We're taking contact from over there. Good luck." As that's happening, and I listen to that, I see my other friend from basic training, Bird, Thomas Bird. And I see he's covered in dust and dirt, a little bit of blood. And he doesn't have his eye pro on. So I reach my pocket, I grab a spare pair, I give it to him. And it's like it was the first Christmas he ever remembered, that smile that crept across his face. And he goes, "Thanks, man." I mean, he was a hippie. I loved him. He was a hippie. He goes, "Man, I was afraid, like, I wouldn't be able to see when I had to shoot someone again. All this dirt flying around." I'm like, holy shit, this hippie just talked about shooting someone. This is going to be a bad day. And that was the last I saw of them for a couple weeks. They exfilled. They walked down the mountain. And there were just 11 of us on this mountainside. And it got quiet. There's no more helicopter. There's no more Humvee. There's no more anyone talking and exchanging information. And the next thing you hear is just a bunch of cracks and whips and snaps. And it was some guys trying to shoot us. I peeked out from behind my rocket, took a couple smacks. I go, "Nope, that's not a good idea. I don't want to put my head in that general area again." So I do it again. I look out to see where fire is coming from. I see this guy running. And he's got a weapon. He's not wearing a uniform. So I level my 249. And right as I'm about to squeeze the trigger, lining it up, I hear a bark from a larger weapon to my right. And Bentham had just shot him. And about 2 minutes later, artillery landed and blew up that position. So we stayed on that mountain for, it feels like years, but really it was maybe 2 or 3 hours. In that time, I had an A-10 fly over my head and do a gun run. We had Apaches do gun runs and launch missiles. We had Kiowas. Those pilots are fucking insane. Fly over and shoot with 50 cals or white phosphorus rockets. Pro tip for you guys, though it'll never hopefully come up in your day-to-day lives. Attacking enemy position with white phosphorus is a war crime. Marking an enemy position with white phosphorus is not. So, yeah. We had an F-15. This is the craziest shit in the fucking world. Like, the A-10 was awe-inspiring. So you're sitting behind your cover and you hear then you actually hear it impact. And It sounds like someone just took several firecrackers, drilled them into a rock, and set it off. Pop, 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 pop. And then you hear when it was actually fired. This wah. The bullets were traveling so fast and were fired from so far away that I heard them pass over my head and hit the target area before I heard when they were actually fired. It's one of the craziest fucking things in the world. But the F-15 bombing run was terrifying. They were creeping up on our position, and you'd see a shadow and you'd squeeze the trigger. You'd see a shadow dart around and squeeze the trigger. And Sergeant French yells out, "Impact, in 1 minute, F-15, 2,000-pound bomb, take cover, danger close." You guys can make out most of that in F-15 fighter. Well, multi-roll had just dropped a bomb. It's 2,000 pounds of high explosive. Danger close means that it is possible, if not probable, that if you are out in the open, it will affect you or kill you. So we all hunkered down. He called 30 seconds. He called 10 seconds. He called 5. We counted down. He got to 0 and nothing. You wait for another 5 seconds. It feels like eternity in a day because you're waiting for what could be a life-ending moment if this pilot didn't line things up right, or things weren't understood. And your heart just kind of slows down. And I remember I was sliding down this hill a little bit from behind my rock. That was my fucking rock. Because everything on these mountains was just rock and very loose dirt. And I remember sliding, I go, fuck. I hold onto my rock, and the loudest noise I have ever heard. It was like the earth just shattered. And this wave of sound hits us, and it feels like my left foot was just dipped into a jacuzzi. It was so hot, so intense. And then the silence of a broken world followed. And then it was time to bug out. We reconsolidate at our LZ, at our landing zone. Chosen Company hadn't taken the speedball, and we couldn't carry it down. So my lieutenant decided we're going to throw it over a cliff. Just a small cliff, about 30 feet. But we can't let the enemy get it. It's got supplies. So he takes a thermite grenade and throws it down behind it. It's like kids with fireworks. You just hear all the rounds popping off. Clack, 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 clack. And some dude decided to take a shot. Missed all of us, thankfully. And then he had 11 dudes with automatic weapons just light up that entire mountainside for a minute. Main reason was we didn't know exactly where he's firing from, but aside from that, we just didn't want to carry all this weight down. We had a 3-mile hike down the mountain. When we got to the base, we were in a small village. All of Chosen Company was there. And my lieutenant asked, "Hey, can we get a ride?" "No, you can't. There's no room. We brought everyone here." "Okay." And we had to walk another 3 miles to Kop Honecker Miracle. And we got to chill in their hooches for a little bit until it all started up again. Apparently in either one of our engagements when one of us was shooting, or one of the bombing run, or one of the missile strikes, or one of the gun runs, or 1,000 other things that were just being lethal, we had killed a high value target. And it was someone very important to the anti-American fighters. So they started mortaring the hell out of us. I remember because I had taken off my Army combat shirt, which the first generation of these things smelled like cat urine when they were covered in sweat, which I most definitely was. I'd just taken that off. I had borrowed a guy's tan t-shirt, one of the Chosen Company dudes. I was walking into their, what passed as a chow hall, and a mortar impacted not 100 feet away from me. And I said, no, fuck this. Turned around, walked back inside, grabbed my helmet, only my helmet, and then walked to that damn chow hall because I was fucking hungry. And went back to my guys, back in those barracks. And we let Honecker Miracle defend itself. We were exhausted. We were left alone. We were abandoned. And then we were forced to march back home after we saved them. So we let them handle it. And none of them were hurt during that engagement. But it was another 8 hours of hard fighting for them. When we finally calmed down, our support company came. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but we begged a ride back home. We weren't going to grab another helicopter for as long as we could, because that's when I came to realize I hate fucking helicopters. They always take me someplace where someone wants to kill me. I'm not getting back on one of those bastards. So we begged our support company to drive us home in the middle of the damn night. And they did. We got home, and the next day we woke up at 10 a.m. and we went back to talking to key leaders in the area. And that next night we went back to being in the mountains and looking for people moving. And as a 20-year-old kid, that formed so many memories for me. You come to think of it, I wasn't old enough to drink. Today I wouldn't have been old enough to buy cigarettes. Couldn't play lotto. Couldn't rent a car. Still had to pay taxes. I was old enough to pay taxes, to vote, and to possibly be mangled or killed in a foreign country. My battle buddy from basic training, Private Brown, he lost his arm that year. Dow did survive, but he's missing about 10 feet of intestine. Private Eris, I think his name was, he had a mental breakdown and was medically chaptered from the Army. These are just guys I knew from basic. My company lost Staff Sergeant Cardenas. A week later, we lost Private Finnegan. And even though he wasn't part of our company, he was attached to us, Sergeant Kennedy. He was part of our sniper section. He was with headquarters company. And they doled out these snipers almost like you would give candy bars out. They didn't have a sniper mission for him. He wasn't scheduled to do anything. So he volunteered to go out with 1st Platoon. And He was bringing up the rear. Some kid just stepped out from behind a wall and shot him in the back of the head. The reason I remember that is I was woken up and told we gotta go. It's getting QRF. And we get there. We lock down the city. Well, the village. And a Kiowa landed. A small two-seater. At first they weren't going to land, but the warrant officer, who isn't quite an officer but is hired and enlisted, he forced a landing. He looked at the lieutenant next to him, gauged at this young do-nothing college kid who hasn't done anything in his fucking life up until that point, was worth less than a sergeant who had been to ranger school and who was in a sniper position, was worth more, so he kicked the fucking lieutenant out. And they loaded up Sergeant Kennedy to fly into Bagram instead of waiting 30 minutes for the Black Hawk to get to us and then back out. Hour round trip. I carried Sergeant Kennedy's helmet, and you can imagine the mess that was inside. And I carried his rifle to be recovered. And we never found the kid. He went back over the mountains into the Corn Valley as a Corn Valley fighter. That decided that he had enough of Bravo Company using crew-served weapons anytime even a fly farted in their general direction. So he was going to go mess with the guys in the Wagle, or Ash Valley. And that was us. I think I have enough time for one more story. So my first story was in the waterport. I was called back there. Chosen Company was expecting to do a push into a village they've never been to before because they always took contact. Contact being someone trying to shoot them. We were told we'll be on standby until 10 a.m. following day. 11 a.m. rolls around, and we're told, get your shit on. We're going out. I said, well, wait. We're just supposed to be here till 10. Yeah, well, they got held up. The hell held them up? 2 machine gun positions. So we get out there, and first thing I hear is clattering on the outside of this MRAP, the minivan that disgorges pissed off soldiers with machine guns like me. And it sounded like some kid throwing rocks at your window. And that's literally what it was, except these rocks were 7.62 by 3.9 full metal jacket, fired out an AK. Oh, Jesus. So we haven't even gotten there yet, and they're shooting at us. We get out of the truck, we go into overwatch position. I watch a bad combat handoff between Chosen 1 and our FO, so Chosen Company, 1st Platoon's FO, and ours, involving an Apache. My FO was calling friendly position. Their FO was calling enemy position. They talked over each other on the radio. The Apache engaged a friendly position. I think the guy's name was Private First Class Mercer. The dude was an army journalist running with some Afghan National Army at the moment. The Apache opened up and took both his legs. So we got loaded into one of our trucks and evac'd. Chosen's captain finally said, no, we just can't do this anymore. My guys are getting ripped up, we aren't making any progress, and they're calling in more fighters. And we noticed an uptick in machine gun fire. They set up a 3rd position. And RPGs. And rockets. mortars. They just brought every fucking one.
Mm.
And that's when I first got to 3rd Squad. So I was just getting to know Sergeant Rod. So he says, "You go down first." I go, "Sergeant, I need to pack up my shit. You might want to send Special Swipe or Zuniga or Cabrera." He goes, "Okay, yeah, you're second then. Get ready." He sends down Mozzarella first. Always Mozzarella when someone's trying to kill me. Mozzarella's there. And I get my shit together, get my bag on, get my gun, start walking down this mountain as fast as I could without tumbling over, breaking my skull. It'd be horribly humiliating to die in a firefight, but because I fell off a cliff instead of getting shot. I mean, just imagine. My family would never forgive me. So I'm trying to be careful but fast. And I finally get down to the road. I take a left. I sprint toward the truck as fast as I can. I get around it, and Maz is peeking out like this. Boom! As soon as I run around, I'm like, "What the hell was that?" He's like, "That was for you." What the hell are you talking about? Dude, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, but as you were walking, or well, you said walking, I thought running. As you were walking down that mountain, every firing position on the other side was trying to light you up. They were trying to drop you. And then when you got on the road, they were still trying to drop you. So say, I don't fucking remember. I just remember walking down as fast as I could, trying not to be slow, getting behind the truck, and then Maz ducking. And when I loaded into the truck, and we were finally getting out of there, AC was on. I was sweating so much from just the heat of the day, the adrenaline, everything just bleeding off of me at that moment. I had probably lost 4 pounds in just sweat and just liquid. And they had these hard plastic seats that were a bucket. That was filled with sweat. So when we talk about behavioral health here, and Mr. Mickey and Wences wanted to talk about behavioral health, and they asked me to do something about me being a vet and my Army shit. I told you last week I have PTSD. These are just 3 stories. You can imagine what that does to me. I lose sleep at night. I have terrible nightmares. I'm constantly afraid of not having everything I need. Just like if I was over there and I was in a firefight. What if I didn't have enough ammo? What if I didn't have water? What if I? It gives me anxiety. And there are days where I sit inside my own head and I think about it. The stuff I went through. And I replay it over and over. What could I have done different? When Sergeant Cardenas died, he got hit by a mortar far away from the fob. They were trying to call in a 9-line medical evac. In other words, 9 pieces of key information to fly a helicopter out to get him. And line 6 kept breaking up and I couldn't pass it. And it plays through my head. What if I had actually heard line 6? Would he still be alive? Things like that. When I got home, I tried toughing it out for a year, 2 years. And then my ex-wife didn't make it any better. I would work my ass off all day, come home at lunch, feed the kid, go back to work, come home sometimes as late as 9 o'clock at night because First Sergeant hated his family and kept us at work so we didn't have to go see him. Cook dinner for her and the kid as she sat in the same spot on the couch. She constantly spent my money. Well, our money, but she'd spend it on stuff that we didn't need. Some months we almost didn't make rent. And when I started to restrict her usage on my debit card to make sure that we could at least pay our fucking bills and at least eat. She went to my company leadership, my CEO, knowing that I was already in behavioral health, and told them that it's getting worse. And that is why I was given a no weapon profile for so long. Honestly, it took me years and a divorce to get into the headspace I'm at today, where I can actually function, where I can talk with you guys about some of this shit, where I can talk with my wife. And yes, I have anger issues. I can honestly and proudly say I've never laid my hands on anyone outside of the Army that didn't try to harm me first. No one's in danger around me. But it took years of work. And it all started with me actually acknowledging there's a problem there in the first place. To go and speak to someone and just try to work out this fucking ball of yarn that is my brain, to the point where I can now at least navigate it. You guys wanted me to talk about my military, and this is it. But speaking of anxiety, I was up all night last night thinking about today. It's about time for me to get home, go get some rest. Hell, I didn't even crack these two today. So, you guys have a good weekend. Tune in tonight for Club Rich. Tune in tomorrow for Reverend Thralkel. And have a good weekend.